Hey people, Danzy here. With another new story because why can't I write what I want? I got COVID too, which sucks ass, but at least I'm not bedridden 24/7. This story is, per much DC Lucifer, the comic book, not the show, going around screwing people left and right, by refusing to play their game of chess and instead playing his own game of poker. Yes. I know I've written Lucifer, bu this one's different. He's less melodramatic, less dick in pants let's bang, and more, hello, I'm Lucifer, and I believe you belong underneath my shoes. Why do I write this? Because recently after rereading Lucifer, I've been seeing a lot of wasted opportunities of where I could have taken the story. Granted that thing was written 5 years ago or something, but now I've discovered the funner cast of DX, Griselda, Roygan, Ingvild, etc., and I want to make one with them. Hell, I even have an entire plot dedicated for Yusaka. Harem. A small one. 3 or 4 at most. Yusaka is obviously the main girl and she and all her 9 tails are gonna stay there. Note. Chapter rewritten. Changelog. Made Lucifer less bratty, more Lucifer. Why? Lucifer. The God and the Devil. Prologue. A new brand of devil. It was the middle of spring, and although the realm of the dead, Erebus, never had seasons as it was a place kept in eternal sunless gloom, the skeletal god preferred his realm to be spick and span. Free from dust and free from souls that escaped their containment, souls needing to be reaped. Again. Hades liked to keep things in check, you see. Very much unlike his more famous brother. And although he was having a guest that had been around for, give or take a few decades from 1,000 years, Lucifer never had the intention of helping. The pompous being would rather not have his perfect suit ruined by a gooey soul of a slimy criminal, as it stood. It had only happened once in a millennia and once was one more than enough. Languidly, the devil watched from the throne with one leg above the other's knee while the Lord of the Grim Reapers meticulously tasked his Reaper captains to sweep separate regions of Erebus. Hades never would have allowed anyone to sit on his throne, but Lucifer's stubbornness and tendency to annoy the living out of the banished Olympian had caused Hades to, simply put, stop giving a damn. Orcus, have your men take care of Elysium. The dam, especially, I've heard enough reports regarding leakages. And watch your daughter, Hades said with a little grumble at the end, emphasizing the importance of that last request. If she gets herself swept by the Styx river current again, no one's accountable but you and her alone. At once, your lordship. The senior Grim Reaper bowed a curtsy, vanishing as his own shadow enveloped his deceptively frail figure. And that was the last of them. The Reapers, at least. Hades turned around to face the devil, his majestic white cape flowing behind him. Now what should I do with you? He sighed. His chilling voice sounded as though it went through a pipe, echoing whenever he spoke. The usual treatment is acceptable, Lucifer offered, his voice rich with neck-slicing charisma and venomous with persuasion. Powerful yet gentle, like a thunder that was coated in honey. Leave me to my own devices, hope that I finally wander off and bug someone else, perhaps spontaneously combust into flames and never to be seen ever after. You need a hobby. I do have one, biting at your patience. The Dark Lord said, although he wasn't exactly dark despite his skin being 2 shades darker and healthier than most devils nowadays. Eternity is such a long, arduous, tedious time to spend, don't you think? And your presence made it twice as unbearable, Hades groaned as he climbed the stairs leading to his throne. Move. You're in my seat. A pair of sharp crimson eyes lazily scanned around the impressive throne made of skull and bones. Which was impressively comfortable despite its material. I'm on it. 2 flickering blue lights in his eye sockets rolled around the edges as Hades swept down his right hand. A wave of malevolent dark energy struck the spot where Lucifer was seated a split second earlier, as the devil had safely blinked away. Right behind the skeleton Pope, both hands shoved in his charcoal black suit. Is this how you treat your esteemed guests? None of my esteemed guests have stayed longer than a year, Hades grunted, reclaiming his throne, resting his bony hands over its armrest. Don't you have anything better to do, Lucifer? He said like a tired old relic. Which he was. Though time was twisted in Erebus, he still aged a couple of extra years mentally whenever Lucifer was in his presence. We both know you're fed up with this kind of thing. Touché, Lucifer said flippantly. Not as much as I am fed up with your new getup. From the bottom of my heart, get rid of it. Your old look fits you better. Hades scoffed. I'm brave enough to try on a new look. You, on the other hand. Perfection has no need of changes, hence the term, Lucifer replied with a prideful smile as sharp as his wavy black haircut. Swept to the side, as it had been when he used to be blonde. But seriously, as your financial advisor and your wife's fashion advisor, get rid of it. Poor Persephone has been made fun of by her friends ever since you decided to wear that modified Pope outfit. This time Hades looked grim. Persephone. Yes. You're the great Grim Reaper, not the great Kid Fiddler. You may know certain things more than I do, but I know more about style than you presume you do. Quote. I'll consider it, Hades sighed, defeated. Perhaps he was a bit too straightforward, but the delusional god was the only one who thought he looked good. Lucifer only wanted the best for this bony caretaker of his. He couldn't have had his freedom if Hades didn't agree to house him once the Great War reached the climax. But I digress, Hades then said. It's nearing 1,000 years in the lands of the living. Surely you don't intend to stay here forever as a freelodger. It's not as if I don't skimper about from time to time. You're just saying that because you want to get rid of me. And you're not mistaken, the god casually admitted. You don't belong here. You never do. Never will. We're in a different pantheon. Bah, pantheons, mythologies, old news. Old restrictions. Lucifer conjured a cloud made of chaotic energy, specifically the power of destruction as he leapt to lay down on top of it. The sofa-like cloud sent out volatile crimson crackles of thunder as it remained afloat. The golden age of the gods has long since passed. Aside from a few up there, who cares? Everyone's fed up with each other and doesn't want to be bothered. Peace is good and all, but damn if it isn't dull. You'd be surprised to know. He cut Hades short. Loki's an exception. Fair enough, Hades shrugged. Still doesn't change the fact you've been here, hiding for a millennium. Who are you terrified from? No one. I'm not hiding from anybody. Lies. You're scared of responsibilities, Lucifer. Lucifer's smile turned into an annoyed scowl. I desire freedom. That's all there ever is, that doesn't mean I'd run from responsibilities. Freedom was an addiction you soared on a glorious high. And now that you've tasted it for 1,000 years, what does it taste like? Hollow and empty on the inside. You never had any fulfillment since then. You can't run from responsibilities. Admit it, and your life will perhaps have a semblance of meaning once again. Much as he hated it, Hades had a point. Creating the greatest rebellion all realms had ever seen held its own satisfaction. Having been the leader of both the Underworld Empire's army and the Kingdom of Heaven was another. Crushing rebellions and coming to other pantheons' aid in their time of need because he was just so perfect and unmatched in doing his job was a pride nothing could hold a candle to. But despite all that, he was never free. He was his father's hound. His exile to hell had made him ruler of it, but by becoming a king of devils he was restrained by the responsibilities of power. He never wanted to be a servant in heaven, but he wouldn't have become a ruler if he knew he'd have to deal with pesky devils and their everyday complaints. Now it was even worse with all the politicians around. The 72 pillars of disappointment. Their ancestors didn't die to watch them preparing to backstab each other. And Lilith's bastard son with Adam had the gall to declare himself a Lucifer. That demon whore certainly knew how to play it safe, but she was lucky he wasn't there or cared enough to call out her bullshit. There was only one Lucifer, and that was him. No one could be like him. His blood was his and his alone, no matter how many had pleaded to bear his child. He was the Creator's perfect being, he didn't need anyone to take his place. They'd get it wrong anyway. Let's say that you're right, Lucifer began as he used his hands as a headrest. Let's say you're spot on all counts. What do you want me to do? I've done everything I've wanted. Cross-checked all my bucket list. I've even died once and came back to life the next instance, he snapped his fingers. Even Jesus needed 3 days. You prevented your death by making a deal with me prior, Hades pointed out. Quote. Which I must say to be ingenious, much as it was mad. Lucifer chuckled proudly. You should have seen the look on his face. He always thought he had it all figured out, that cocky bastard. He thought I'd agree to die along with him without some sort of contingency plan. I created the biggest rebellion and still he looked down on me. Unbelievable. And yet I own your soul, Hades smiled. Well, not like he had much facial tissue to not smile. And I've killed the creator. The Alpha and Omega. The creator, Lucifer said, one-upping Hades successfully. He promised me a taste of his power for a moment as long as I die. Guess he never expected I'd extend a moment into forever, did he now? Like a snake to its prey, Lucifer eyed the god of the dead. And I've known the working of a deity for a time. The non-primordial ones, anyway, you need faith to breathe. How many up there still believe in you? Scarcely a small country, I'd say, even Greek is nearly completely Christianized. Other gods might have trembled and feared for their existence upon learning their fate lied in the hands of the devil, but not Hades. And here I thought the day would never arrive where you start making empty threats, Lucifer. Hades stayed long enough with Lucifer to tell he knew how to be grateful. The first years, his trust on the devil was shaky at best, but a millennia was more than enough for him to tell Lucifer was just a kid with too many toys in hand and was made clueless on what he should do with any of it. Quote. I'm just bored, Lucifer then eased back, returning to his restful state. So murderously boring at the top, isn't it? Consider settling down then. You're a horrendous jester. There's no shame in loving anyone else other than yourself. Oh, don't get me wrong, that part I'm okay with. It's the having kids part one don't agree with. I'd rather lick a cheese grater than make my own spawn. Hades rolled his eyes. The godkiller, terrified of having children. They're overrated oversized gremlins. They can't fend for themselves for a couple of years and they cry and they make a mess. It's at least 18 years of constant supervision if you want to raise them right, and I know I won't settle for anything less than perfect. Picture being my child. I tremble at the thought, Hades said. You won't understand it until you have one. You're only partially omniscient, no. There's no such thing as that, I chose not to be omniscient. Still, I don't need one to tell that much. What a miserable life you live to want something only when you deem you need it. You can't deny it's efficient, Lucifer chuckled. And don't you pat yourself on the back, Hades. Persephone is the one who looks after your little grunts while you sit here and grumble at your reapers. It's called having a job. Try getting one. I don't need one. I'm God. Even gods have responsibilities. The weak ones, yes. I've met Chaos and all he did is loaf around watching his twits quarrel. Hades snorted. You're a king without a kingdom. Why don't you take back what you built? Hades, even if it ever became as simple as strutting inside and demanding my crown, I've reigned over hell. It didn't feel much different than serving in heaven, only that I serve the people. It's even worse now with all those bureaucrats. Throw them into the pit as you would. Oh, I would. But devils from the new generation and the last would only see my act as tyranny, Lucifer dismissively said. I'm not blind, old man. I haven't lost touch with reality. Times have changed and yet I remain constant. The bony overlord scoffed in his amusement. Spoken like a true god. Lucifer allowed a sigh then. It's not me not wanting to leave that is the crux of the problem. It's me having nothing worth doing out there. A kingdom, you say, but tell me the value of a kingdom when I can make worlds. And I have ventured. Seen what lies beyond the creation. And now here I am, running out of things to do. What about taking a walk? Where to? Nowhere. Lucifer felt annoyed. And I'm left with you. An old bone to pester. Their bickering ultimately was shaved to an end as a grim reaper emerged from the crack between the shadows. Pardon my untimely intrusion, my lord, it was Pluto. Hades' right-hand reaper man. Professional and loyal to a fault in Hades' eyes. Boring to a fault in Lucifer's. Governor Azazel wishes to visit you. Let him in. As Pluto vanished in the same way Orcus did, Lucifer positioned himself to sit over the edge of his cloud, shaping it to be his own one-seater sofa. Azazel. And I thought I'd be stuck here arguing with you again until supper. Seems like boredom may elude us this day, eh Hades? Don't call me that. Why not? Your wife calls you that. That's precisely why. Break. It wasn't rare from both devils or fallen angels to request audience with the Reaper King of Erebus, normally asking for a low-profile assassination or very rarely a change in trade agreement. As Hades remained neutral to the three major factions, he was open to business from all sides. Legal or illegal. Lucifer never revealed himself to any devil, that being said, as he was, above, them to be considered as them. He was the devil. He was their creator. They were only people who called themselves devils because they used to worship him. But when it was Azazel who came by, then sure. Lucifer would allow himself to be seen. Enemies of 1,000 years ago didn't necessarily have to stay as enemies. What do you think he is? The childish angels who kept cursing his name until this very moment. Please. Usually, dealing with the governor had resulted with mild amiable laughter, but this one, however, might end on a sour note. No, Hades said with finality. My reapers reap souls. They're reapers, not cops, Azazel. They don't apprehend the culprit, they kill them. Ah, come on now, Hades, cut me some slack here. Maybe you can tell your men to kill these people slightly. Nonsense, the Reaper Lord said, offended. You either kill someone or you don't. No two ways about it. Why make it complicated? Lucifer then spoke his mind, already laying down on his side again not long since the talk began. Those numbnuts went rogue. Yank their head off and be done with it. He has a point, Hades affirmed. You're only making this difficult on yourself. Not all of them went rogue as much as they were just following orders, Azazel debated. Those people might not mean much to either of these Erebus dwellers, but Azazel couldn't afford to lose his people like this. Any way we come to terms. Any way we can make a deal where those people don't have to die or suffer brain damage. None. We kill or we don't. Quote. Balls, Azazel groaned. Why don't you just talk to them if you fancy them so much, Zazel? Lucifer asked, not exactly bothered by the governor's problem as he was fascinated by his unwillingness against simple violence. Afraid I can't tell you much more than what I told you both. Not unless you're not willing to lend a hand, Lush. Ah, of course, why wouldn't I lend a hand and clean over your mess like a janitor? Would you like me to prepare your hot bath too? Scratch your back while I'm at it. Don't you wanna see what it's like up there? No offense, Hades, but this place is all drab with muted colors. Lucifer didn't budge. If I become ever so curious I can just snap my fingers and be done with it. Omniscience is a convenient thing, I tell you. Then why aren't you? Because it's dull, right? Unfortunately. Of course it is, Azazel grinned. Come on Lucy. My hands are tied here and I'm running against time. If I could have handled it myself then I wouldn't be here in the first place. Neither of us want a war to start between our factions, no. Faction. Lucifer grinned mockingly at the sentiment. I untangled myself from the underworld when I died. Did you forget? Your antique age caught up to you at last. He teased as he swiveled on his floating clouds to stand on his own. His dress shoes clicked as they touched the cold marble ground of Hades' throne room. And besides, why don't I want that? What makes you think I don't want to see the end of you and your people? Along with all those cretins living in the empire I've built. Because if you wanted to, then you would have done it long ago, Azazel said with a certain kind of calmness. And you want to be king of the ashes. Ruler of ruins and scattered rocks. I've been the king of molten rocks and jaggedy places. King of the ashes would be an improvement. And that would be called being an Olympian, Zazel. Azazel snorted while Hades shrugged, not seeing the point in denying it. The bony overlord didn't value his Olympus family much, considering what they did to him. He at least had the sense to not forever live in denial, which was positively the only reason why his own realm thrived, while theirs faltered in the test of time. Well, whatever you say, don't try to bullshit me, Lush, Azazel said. You said the same thing last month. Did I? Lucifer raised a single eyebrow, jogging through his memories, browsing through his archives. Quote. Huh, I did I? How embarrassing. You need some fresh air. For an extended period. You can't tell what day it is in this depressing place. No offense Hades. Hades said nothing but a grunt of disapproval. He liked Erebus in all its gloomy glory. Perhaps he was biased because the sun in Olympus never set. Quote. You do make a fine point, Lucifer then admitted. But what can you promise me in return, Azazel? Assuming that I coerced your lackeys, which I will, spotlessly. Quote. My deepest, sincerest gratitude. Offered Azazel with artless hope. Lucifer was not impressed. There were times for banters and there were times for deal-making. It's very smart to play smart with me, Azazel. At that casual threat, Azazel considered his options with sincerity. Well, tell me what you want. I asked what you can provide. Don't turn the table on me. You're shaving away my patience here, Lord Governor of the Grigori. My cordiality lasts as long as you don't waste my time. We know you don't value gold, Azazel began. Materialistic possessions, Lucifer scoffed. Nothing more than silly little trinkets. What I seek is eternal. You don't drink, sadly. Drinks are vices reserved for drunks and desperate housewives. My point exactly, Azazel muttered as he weighed his hands. And you obviously don't need me to lay with women or men. Women are much softer and tender, but yes, I do not require your help. The day I need someone else to lay with a woman is the day I finally die. From horrific shame, undoubtedly. Yea, I don't doubt that, the fallen angel shrugged. Quote. I can't think of anything else you want, Lush. Yes. Exactly. Lucifer narrowed his deep-set crimson eyes, casting shadows over them whenever he walked under the light. What I desire is freedom, unfortunately no one can grant it or take it away from me but myself. But I suppose it is unfair of me to expect an aspect from one who pursues tangible materials, hence I'll be fair with you, dear brother. Lucifer descended down from the flight of stairs, and as he shared the similar height with Azazel, he saw him eye to eye. I will help you take care of those rascals without spilling a single drop of blood. The devil then placed his left hand onto his shoulder, and Azazel could tell this dance might cost him forever. You shall have your problem solved. By me, obviously, but some day, and may that day never come, I will call upon you to do me a service in return. And whatever that service is, you're obliged to perform it. As long as you're not asking me to start calling you Godfather, then sure. Azazel grasped his extended right hand and gave him a firm shake. Maybe I will if I were stupid, Lucifer said, pleased that the deal was sealed. Azazel was either desperate or a fool to effectively surrender his freedom to the devil, but knowing him, the governor had a few tricks up his sleeve. Fine by him. All the more interesting for Lucifer. But until that day, consider this a goodwill from yours truly, now let's go. Looks like you have your wish fulfilled, Hades, for the moment. Bring souvenirs when you return, Hades lazily said, waving a wave of dismissal with his skeleton hand. Yes, I'll give you a bone of a dragon to add into your bone throne or whatever. And then they disappeared. The devil and the governor, as the former twisted the fabric of reality, when he was still inside Hades' domain, where laws and logics were his to control and twist. They were his authority, and they were meant to be absolute. Yet Lucifer skewed it all the same. It was just as he had feared. The devil had become skilled in controlling his new powers, one he reaped from his own creator. A primordial god that presided from the beginning along with chaos. A protogenoi. The last millennia he spent here wasn't to hide from the world, but to prepare himself for the world. Having taken Yahweh's power and control, Lucifer was effectively as influential as chaos himself. He was one of the few beings that could unseal Trihexa and unleash the beast into the world. Although it was highly unlikely that Lucifer would do so without ensuring he could tame the beast, the possibility alone was mortifying enough as no one could be certain of what Lucifer had in mind. For once since a long while, Hades had the opportunity to stop fretting himself with the Devil Lord's presence. He had been nothing more but an understanding guest thus far, but Hades would be lying if he claimed he ever felt secure with him around. He always felt that pair of crimson eyes were hiding something behind their relaxed gaze, and Lucifer's tight-lipped smile was the kind of smile befitting a mastermind of a scheme. Whatever it was, Hades was glad Lucifer finally left Erebus. And he hoped it was for an extended amount of time. He was a terrible influence on Benia and no doubt to his own kids if they ever met him, but now that he left, Hades had to wonder. Which would be wiser? To let the devil free? Or keep him in his domain and put his realm at risk? Chapter 1. The Devil's Will. Kuo Town. A small town located in the Kanto region of Honshu, Japan. With the population somewhere between 20 and 30,000. Not exactly the grandest towns or even a popular tourist attraction, but the devil had no interest in getting himself known by these rising apes who called themselves humans. That aside, why would someone like Azazel bother himself with a squabble of loose ravens? Well, because that town was under the supervision of two devils. One Rias Grimori and one Sona Citri. Two little sisters of the current Satans, whose names Lucifer would be bothered to keep in his head if he cared. But he didn't. In his eyes, those new devils had failed as a species when they broke into a civil war, and those new leaders with whatever titular names they fancied had failed the moment they didn't crush the remnants of the civil war completely. Sure enough, they created the Chaos Brigade and new issues began to arise for the Underworld Empire. But their incompetence was not his problem to solve. Either way, he had given the governor his words, and as his words were his bond, Lucifer did what he was asked to, according to his words. Charred remains of what used to be fallen angels and a flock of magicians decorated the, quite impressively clean, marble floors of an underground lair, located under a poor excuse of an abandoned church. Rat dungs were everywhere. These miserable loons were lucky Lucifer knew how to float without his wings, otherwise he'd have extended their demise. You killed them. Azazel immediately snapped when he arrived at the scene. Lucifer merrily slapped his hands away before Azazel could reach his collars. I did what I said. I fixed your problem without spilling a single blood. Did you notice a splatter? You bastard. The governor seethed, his hands running over his hair in frustration, eyes in complete disbelief as he stared in awestruck horror. Not his problem. I remained true to the letter, just not the implied spirit. Azazel seethed. Get out of my sight, you devil. Extra demands will cost you extra, Lucifer said. Though I suppose I'll seek out Kokabeel and fulfill my end of the deal. You still owe me, remember that. Lucifer, you. Tricked you again. A tale as old as time itself, and Lucifer disappeared without the flashy effects, simply vanishing completely from sight. But not without flashing a victorious grin, trademark of the devil, of course. Kuo town was as small as it was boring, but it did have some characters in it, and some interesting tidbits he discovered while he was taking a stroll through the empty park. That tidbit being the existence of a hidden doorway to a realm between realms. Now this was a find. Kokabeel could wait anyway. Lucifer would rather die than place anyone else above his own desires. If Azazel couldn't talk his loose cadre down, then a snap and he'd rid this earth from that warmongering moron. His brothers in heaven wouldn't thank him for it. Much as they should, but Lucifer had stopped expecting anything including gratitude from those winged robots. Well, he did kill their heavenly daddy, so. Only two beings existed that he considered allowed to whine, children and women who were acting coy. He had nothing against flamboyant men, but should they ever whine to him, then they may expect a divine hand slap across their face. All that aside, perhaps he pulled off a prank a little bit too cruel to Azazel. Yet then again, the asshole governor only ever chatted to him when he had something he wanted. So serve him right. Losing it over a couple of fallen angels was unlike him anyway, and Lucifer had no doubt Azazel would find a new reason to stop being upset with him. Having incompetent underlings might be one of the reasons. But for now, this peculiar doorway. With a little bit of handwave and a little bit of magic, namely, his divine will, a new kind of power when he robbed Yahweh of his godhood, he willed the hidden doorway to appear before him. It wasn't so much a door as it was a gateway, however, and it was red in color. A Torii gate, he believed, was what the locals called this thing. Without caring for the consequences as he knew there were so laughably few that could stand in his way, Lucifer entered the archway, and found himself standing somewhere in the middle of a forest, where the skies were cleaner than Kuo's midnight skies, and the moon itself was brighter. An artificial moon, he immediately recognized, as this place's gravity itself was unnatural. Floating upwards, Lucifer mentally saw through his memoirs to determine where he was. He pinpointed his exact location just as a large traditional Japanese shrine could be spotted over the horizon, standing atop a hill with a bustling village resting beneath it. Old Kyoto, as peaceful as it ever was, and traditionally dull. Welp. Might as well pay the fox a visit. As if wearing a binocular, Lucifer formed a circle with his fingers and peered through it, eyeing a particular spot of the Shinto shrine, specifically Yusaka's bedroom, if he remembered correctly. Once he was certain with his trajectory, Lucifer skipped the entire introduction and the monotonous waiting by jumping through the space-time continuum, without ripping a single flow of time. And he stood before a sliding door made out of wood and oriental paper. He didn't open it, of course, as that would only lead to the hall outside the bedroom. Why would he exit the room when he just arrived? His arrival was soon greeted with a tone of heightened caution and alert, coming from behind him. Who are you? The Kyuubi demanded, all her 9 lustrous tails flaring with mystic flames. They didn't burn her home, but they could certainly burn her intruder. Or so she thought. If she knew what Lucifer was made of, then she might have resorted to a different element that wasn't anything related to fire or flames. Forgotten me already? Lucifer smoothly swiveled around his shoes, and his smile, though failing to reach his eyes, was at least amicable and amenable. But it slowly faded away into a flat line as he furrowed his eyebrows. Quote. Who are you? I'm Yasaka, guardian of old Kyoto. Who are you? You can't lie to me, he simply warned, approaching the Kyuubi. Or what she appeared to be. Golden hair with sweeping bangs, 9 bushy tails, a pair of vulpine ears with white tips, a loose kimono that revealed much of her bosoms. Yes, she had Yasaka's looks to a spitting image, but her soul was not Yasaka's. And she did just lie to him. Unacceptable. Who are you? He demanded this time, not exactly upset or mad, just curious. Where have you taken the old fox? Back away. You're a stranger who came to my domain and you dare question my legitimacy. She tried to sound menacing, but Lucifer could smell fear radiating from the Kyuubi. It didn't help her case that she was walking back, away from him until a wall prevented her from moving another step. His eyes narrowed. He wasn't yet angry, but he was getting annoyed with all these false pretenses. Tilting his head, he shut the windows and sealed the entire room with an oppressive air, soundproofing it and temporarily erasing its existence from the minds of everyone in the shrine aside from him and the pretender before him. But perhaps, a little dance. You don't remember me. Lady Yasaka. He began his tune, stopping his advance, letting her gain her confidence in her sham. What about the nights we spent here in this room? Huddled in warmth. Your warmth in particular has been exceptionally pleasant. I can't say that my pride isn't wounded. It wasn't a complete lie, of course. Only amateurs would lie completely. Yasaka had a few flings with him, but they were never an item. Just 2 free-spirited young fools wanting to spend the night with slightly more warmth and sweat. My paramour. The Kyuubi appeared to think, working her brains, deciding if he was lying to her or not. Quote. My apologies, it's been far too long since I lay in bed with another. Not since Kuno. Who in the 7th hell was Kuno? Kuno, she said again, looking at him with her radiant golden eyes under her sleek golden eyebrows. My daughter. Your daughter. But you're a Kyuubi, aren't you? You can't bear children with, Lucifer realized once he got a read of her face. Your adopted daughter, I see. Royals and their heirs. Precisely, she nodded. Quote. But my own blood or not, as things stand, I intend to fulfill my duty as her mother first. But it's already terribly late to play the mother, Lucifer said, his words snaking into her deepest, darkest, wicked of hearts, where it nestled itself and bred desires as he approached her, his hand caressing her soft cheek. Even a mother is still a woman, and it's not unheard of for one, regardless how motherly, to seeketh embers. He gently placed a hand atop her chest, splaying his fingers across but without any pressure as he felt her heartbeat soar. My, Yasaka, muttered, visibly entranced. Quote. What have you done to me? This is all you, Lady Yasaka. You know everything I did was in accordance with your desire. Does it whisper to you the same thing it whispered whenever I'm around? Or do I need to cajole you more and whisper sweet nothings as to why this is not the worst idea you can have? Is that so? Her hazy eyes stared longingly at his lips, and before she knew it, she had pushed herself off the wall, and brought her hands around his neck, so that she could seal his lips with hers. Lucifer returned in kind, kissing her as gently and roughly as a lover would, nibbling her lower lip just before he broke away from their pitched battle. Only to plant his hand to the wall next to her head, and leaned in for a second round, this time thoroughly tasting her as he invaded her mouth, flicked her tongue, and tugged her wet flesh with his lips, as Yasaka's moan became heavier and audible. Her lips were wonderfully soft. She had a delectable little purr when she let him explore her as he pleased. She hadn't realized it yet, but Lucifer had noticed her hair ornament had disappeared and some of her hair had turned pink. Even her breasts were getting smaller, younger and more pronounced. Her illusion was wavering, as it appeared, but Lucifer didn't feel the need to rush her confession. Not when she was looking at him with lustful eyes like this. No. He should torment her first. If not for the sake of it, then for daring to lie to him. Your name, he muttered to her neck as she shivered in return. Whisper it back. Ya. Yasaka. She shuddered, feeling his lips sucking her skin, feeling lightheaded, unsure if there was a living being in the world who knew how to kiss like, whoever this person was. Ah. He lifted his head, slowly making his way from her neck, up to her jaw, her cheek, then next to her ear. Do you want to hear me whisper it? If you would. Yasaka, he whispered to the fluffy white part of her vulpine ear. It jittered in response. It was rather endearing, if he must say. Why are you lying to me, Yasaka? She trembled lightly, her toes curling over the tatami. What for would I lie? Because you don't want me to leave, he continued, this time lifting her leg with one hand as he rested his forehead against hers. Because you're afraid I'd leave. Why should I be afraid? Her chest began to pound as he closed their distance, pressing his chest against her and pushing her up the wall, as Yasaka instinctively raised her unraised leg around his waist. Because you know I'm the only one who can make you feel this way. And if you lie, then I'll have to stop. You know I don't appreciate liars, Fox. Who does? She whispered, breathless as she craned her head, letting him bruise her neck once again. Why should I, NMH? Then tell me your name. Your true name. One you're meant to keep a secret, but you know I can keep a secret better than many, do you? I do, the Kyuubi listlessly nodded, even as 5 of her tails began to fading away in the dimly lit darkness of the room. Lucifer brought his head back up again, to stare into the now golden eyes belonging to a pink-haired fox spirit, who had longed for a companion that even Lucifer started to take pity on her. In his defense, he rummaged her soul and her mind only to determine if she was ill-intentioned regarding her transformation, but he ended up digging out bits of her past history as well. Not one she was keen on sharing. He stopped when he learned about her hatred of her own name. He stopped because he wanted to hear it from her directly. He stopped because he prided himself in being an excellent listener and didn't require extra tricks to get someone to spill their heart. So let's start again, he said to her with promise, I won't hate you just because a name. Why wouldn't you? Because a name is just a name to me. What matters is the person, him. Is that so? That is so, he hummed, softly brushing away a lone tear from her cheek. Why don't I have your trust? You do. Then tell me your name. And share to me what happened with Yasaka and her absence. He stroked her cerise pink bangs, as the two-tailed kitsune looked into his eyes with a certain kind of yearning, with a genuine desire of being loved and cherished. And then, we will lie down somewhere private, just you and me. Put an end to your horrible streak of being lonely in the nights. I am Tamamo no Mei, she whispered, tearing up, both her legs still clinging onto him, and then both her arms as she hugged him, pouring her all into his chest. I don't know where Lady Yasaka is, other than she is trapped inside an amulet. I don't understand how. Please help me, whoever you are, I'm terribly scared. Hush now, enough with the tears. I'm here, there's no one else to fear. Lucifer caressed her honey blonde vulpine ears the same way Yasaka had taught him, upwards, never downwards. Smooth the fluff, not make it bristle. You're clearly distraught, so why don't you ease yourself down, and let me? Not having the energy to refuse, Tamamo unsaddled herself from him and stared at the floor, slowly sobering at what she had done and had admitted to a complete stranger. But her eyes crossed when she looked at him, instinctively trying to follow his arm up past her brow. As she was quite short, standing barely at his chest, she couldn't tell what he was doing until she felt his fingers scratching the backside of her ears. Ah, that's my. Tamamo shuddered from bliss, subconsciously nuzzling against his hand. Her ears swiveled around his fingers and her 2 bushy tails waved rapidly side to side, an obvious and unconscious affirmation that even after all these years, Lucifer had never lost his touch. Of course he wasn't surprised, but there was satisfaction to be had in the acknowledgement of others. Didn't mean he proactively sought for approvals or recognition, as those were for fools who had yet to make a mark in history. Lucifer had made plenty enough. History wouldn't be the same without him. At his new little fox pet, he found himself smiling, appeased by her intensified reaction as he worked his way down to her neck, caressing her cheek with his thumb. Tamamo melted in his hands, and Lucifer would have continued giving her what she desired if she could return it by giving him the information he wanted. Namely, Yusaka's whereabouts. Tamamo instinctively smushed her cheek against his hand even as he was drawing it away, whining almost like a lost pup when she realized there was no more petting. You said Yusaka is in an amulet, he repeated, snapping her back to the strange predicament she had been set in. Where is it? First top drawer. Sobering up, Tamamo pointed towards a dresser, Yusaka's dresser. Her clothes then shapeshifted from one of regal white kimono, to a vibrant blue, white linings, and black shrine maiden outfit that revealed much of her legs that were covered in same-colored thigh-high leggings. Lucifer promptly made a face of approval to her, unique fashion sense, so to speak. But he walked over to the dresser with the fox girl sauntering behind him. Quote. Nay, stranger Dono, the kitsune called out to him just as he was about to pull the drawer. He paused to take a look at her. Quote. Are you really Yusaka Hime's entourage? Can I really trust you with this? Of course you can, Lucifer smirked proudly, dragging out the drawer as he picked up a golden amulet. It had a golden chain, and it was obviously a necklace with quite heft in it. There's no one better willed than me to deal with, whatever this is. Admittedly, he had never dealt with a kyuubi trapped inside a gem. Dragons he had heard, but they were sealed in sacred gears, not a piece of jewelry. The window peered open as Lucifer used the moonlight to shine on the jewel. It cast out a nice reflection on the wall. Quote. When did this happen? 2 weeks ago, Tamamo replied, skittish. I don't know what happened. I was supposed to clean Yusaka Hime's room, and I was. But then I heard her voice, so I thought she was still in the room with me, but no. She didn't remember anything either, but she told me to take her shape, to prevent an uproar, you see, and of course, Kuno as well. Putting her frown aside, Lucifer scrutinized the amulet for a little while longer, throwing all appraisal spells he had knowledge of, tinkering with his ungodly power and knowledge as both demonic and angelic and divine powers encapsulated the amber-like gem lodged in the pendant of the necklace. Black, white, and gold specters shrouded the jewel, before it suddenly pulsed with a radiant glow. And it started yelling at him. Stop. Whatever you are doing, stop at this instance. That was Yusaka all right. Mikan. Yusaka Hime. Tamamo exclaimed. Huh, Lucifer worded, amused, but also stopping his magical tinkering. Long time we've yet to see each other and you trapped yourself in a piece of jewelry. What on earth did you do this time, Fox? That voice, Lucifer. How did you get there, wherever you are now? Tamamo blinked. Quote. Luciferu. I know I'm impossible to forget, he huffed. And I'm in your place, with your XP. Just what kind of trouble did you get yourself into this time? How rude. You haven't even heard my story yet you've cast your suspicion. I don't hear you denying it. I was just about to, Yusaka continued in her pompous, somewhat childish voice she'd never let out in public. It wasn't me. I don't know who did this, but I swear I will strangle them with my own hands once I get out of this place. Lucifer casually lifted the necklace, dangling the pendant before him as he re-inspected it. There's traces of Nordic seals here and there. All evidence pointing at Loki. Loki. The trickster god. Yusaka's tone was seething with burning rage. I should have known. Who else would pull this kind of banal stunt other than him? He could think of a few names, actually, but no gods were crafty or even daring and stupid enough to seal one of the crucial leyline tenders inside a piece of gemstone. As to why, well, Loki always had his own reasons and his own way of thinking. Only idiots would bother themselves with the trickster god, as he was not a being able to be reasoned with. Lucifer did not fear him, not that he feared any gods as he was one, but the devil rathered not to associate himself with the frost giant boy, lest Loki dirtied his name. As if his name wasn't tainted enough by those Lucifer pretenders. He should consider eliminating them once they got irksome enough, he supposed. Few crimes are as great as identity theft, after all. Claiming to be his own son. That's worth a few years of being repeatedly thrown into a pit filled with devil-eating alligators that hadn't been fed real meat for years. But that was a concern for another time. Do tell, what's it like living inside a gem? Horrendously boring, Yusaka immediately answered, almost whining. But my entertainment is the least of my concerns. What has happened out there? How bad is it, Tamamo? Did anyone report any destabilization? Have you noticed anything different? And by the gods, is Kuno alright? Shish, she's fine, Yusaka Haim, the kitsune readily answered. And no, I haven't seen any noticeable differences than usual, although I didn't know how this person arrived here. I suppose I should have asked earlier. I walked in on one of your gates, he said blandly. It was hidden, just not well enough. Like it was hurried. Spat me out somewhere in the forest. Oh dear, there should only be one entrance, at all times. And that one was in Kyoto and only Kyoto. Is it at least hidden enough to not be instantly seen by outsiders? Not for the curious ones. Hard to say, I'm not exactly insensitive to trickery and magic. Quote. 'Twas bad news regardless, Yusaka muttered. He imagined both her ears would be flattened right now. Quote. If this goes on, who knows where the gates will spawn next? Old Kyoto is hidden for a reason. Why the fuss? Your people are hardly the type to make enemies. Niggling annoyance at times with their pranks, but nothing harmful. You sound surprisingly naive for a being who has witnessed and caused the rise and fall of empires. Lucifer shrugged. I care more about the future rather than the past. The past is still a better teacher than both present and future. Doesn't mean it should be as important, he smoothly refuted. Either way, what can you do there? And what can we do here? I wanted to see and talk to you in the flesh, not, he made a face as he eyed the amber gem. A talking stone. You think I want to be this way? Well, you are somewhat rock-headed. I suppose it is at least thematic. I will make you eat your own words, Lucifer. Consider not being a rock first. Quote. Exclamation mark quote. Yusaka could be heard grumbling inside said rock. Her forced recluse definitely played a bad part in her patience and control over her anger. But then again, Lucifer knew what buttons to push to gain his desired reactions. He'd never tell her this as it would only make her madder, but he had always thought she was the cutest when she got petulantly angry with him. Of course, Lucifer took pride in the fact that he was the only entity in all realms that Yusaka could be completely honest towards. To whom she didn't need to put on her masks, without needing to be a leader or spiritual counselor for a variety of species. But after a while, Yusaka's voice mellowed into one of despair. Quote. I've tried everything. I've spent all my powers trying to break away from this containment. Nothing I did worked. You need to set me free. He raised an eyebrow. Need. Please help me, Yusaka pleaded, not having the spirit to argue. My people need me. Kuno needs me, I can't stay here for long. You I can trust. Ironically, you're the only person that has my complete trust and confidence. No one else is as shrewd as you. Now he liked the sound of that placed him above everyone else, which wasn't mistaken. Ease it with your compliments, Fox, you had me at, please help. Still, this will be one big favor you're asking from me. I don't care, anything to get me out of this prison. I must get out. Another favor from another leader of a different faction, and his day had only just begun. Very much expected of him, Lucifer wouldn't have settled for less. Very well. I'll find a way to get you out. As well as getting my physical body out. Yusaka quickly added, having learned from her past mistakes from making a deal with him. Lucifer appreciated her alertness with a snigger. I'll get you out. Sure. You have my word, my vulpine lover, I'll keep you close to my heart. Quite literally too, might I add. How very romantic, Yusaka sighed as Lucifer put on the necklace, tucking it under his wine-red dress shirt and jet black tie. Quote. Tamamo, while I understand this is hard for you, and I hate that I must ask this from you, but I need you to continue acting as me in my absence. The entirety of old Kyoto still needs you. Yes, Yusaka Haim Dono. Tamamo stiffened, snapping out of her daydream as she was secretly craving to receive the same treatment Lucifer gave to her domain protector. Quote. Can I ask where you might be heading, Goshujin-sama? Goshujin? Oh gods, Yusaka sounded reasonably disappointed. Not you as well. What did he say to you? Tamamo brought one of her tails forward, hugging it for security as she stammered and fiddled with the white tips of her tail. Well, I mean, he's handsome, tall, and he said some sweet-sounding words to me. He swept me off my feet and he turned my legs into jelly with a kiss. What is a young maiden like me to do? Don't that bring back your memories, old fox? Lucifer added, lightly but smugly smiling as he looked at his new kitsune friend. Don't worry. I won't forget you. I recognize those who value me greatly. Ahan. Squealed Tamamo. Wed me please. I'll be loyal to you and you only. Lucifer raised a single eyebrow. I don't need to make you my wife to make you loyal. Mikan. As Tamamo's tail swayed wildly as she hogged his right arm, Yusaka sighed. You surely know how to make a lady feel special, so she said with dry sarcasm. Was I mistaken to hope I was the only one for you? You are the only Yusaka for me. The same way she is the only Tamamo for you, I'm sure. But of course, if I deem you all the same, then won't that make you ordinary? And you're wrong, Fox. I know how to make myself unforgettably special. Lucifer corrected, right. I've stayed here long enough and I've had what I wanted. Hearing that shocked Tamamo just as the moment she learned of Yusaka's state. No, you can stay a mite longer still, she said with ears drooping forward like a pair of wilting flowers. Her tails even stopped swishing. You said I won't be sleeping alone tonight. You warned me to tell no lies. Well, aren't you just adorable? Are you a dog or a fox? Lucifer dryly said with a single raised eyebrow, but not without a small smirk etching his lips. I'm a kitsune, not an inagami. Are you now? He hummed. Now where did you find this one? How come I've never met her? Tamamo was about to tell him her life story of how she used to be a cursed stone that could kill ordinary people if they so much as stared at her, but she was cut off by one annoyed Kyubi. Quit flirting around. The stability of my city is in peril. We'll be back soon, Tamamo. Why don't you keep the bed warm while I'm away? Okay. With a twirl, Tamamo transformed herself back into Yusaka, gaining several inches of height, 7 golden tails, and a more ample set of bosoms. I'll be waiting for you, Goshujin-sama. With a nod, Lucifer snapped away from Yusaka's domain, and surged back into existence in Erebus, namely Hades' gloomy throne room that was only kept lit by the floating blue candles. Greetings and salutations, old man, Lucifer jeered, and Hades was visibly wishing for time to be reverted. I didn't get you your dragon bone, but I found something better, a 9-tailed fox spirit inside a piece of jewelry. And you will help me break her out, because that is how you can get rid of me from this place of yours. To be continued. What's better than one fox wife? 2 fox waifus. Har har. You expected smut but all you get is fluff. Fluff. Lots of fluff. Fluff for days and the morrows. Fluff for the sad and lonely Tamamo. And for Yusaka whose DX'd appearance is kinda so I have to change her appearance a bit. Mostly her eyebrows and her hair. Yay me. But seriously Danzy, W'th is this story about? Why? Fluff OFC, and Lucifer's quest on getting the best fox wife out of the amulet so he could cuddle her to death. I just found myself lacking fluff yo, and writing Fates Reforged made me realize it all the worse. It's like a withdrawal. Also I'm retconning DXD's theory about Yusaka being part of a ley line, because it doesn't work like that and I think Ishibumi did that to stop Yusaka from prancing around. Did I kill Rainier and her gang? Well, I never confirmed it so there you have it. Then again, it's hard to give them a bigger part in the story so don't hope too much. I'm focusing on Lucifer and Yusaka first before I add more. Haim is commonly seen as part of a Japanese female divinity's name which is a deity. I'm just following what Wikipedia said for how Tamamo refers to Yusaka. Follow for the next chapter, which is more fluff-packed than this, specifically between him and Yusaka. Not Hades, DW about that. And do be kind and leave a review so I have something to read. Make it somewhat a mutual exchange. You receive my story, I receive your review. 1 of 11 next. Just in. Community. Forum. More. Lucifer. The God and the. Tease I. Yo da yo. Ayame were saj pepahans. With that unrelated blabber, here's your fix. Don't sniff it too much. Lucifer. The God and the Devil. Chapter 2. Old friends and new. Throughout his entire unnatural lifetime, Hades had seen the unthinkables. How a man split an entire ocean, how the Tower of Babylon met their doom, how the Olympians managed to gather supporters even with their disgusting criminal acts and unapologetic treatments to beings lesser than them, and how a phoenix died. But never had he seen one curiosity such as this. A guardian of the yokai clans, confined inside a small piece of rock hardly the size of his pinky. How peculiar, Hades muttered, the tiny blue flames in his eye sockets flickering as he observed the gemstone laid before a counter made of obsidian glass, that was really just a polished chunk of obsidian with a flattened surface rather than a table. You said you hold no recollection of the day you turned to a rock. I am not a rock. I am trapped in it, Yusaka hissed. And no. None whatsoever, Lord Hades. Hades glanced up at Lucifer on the other end of the small counter. You think Loki did this? Norse made the best kind of seals, Lucifer shrugged, not really willing to put that much thought into it as the evidence had been quite telling. And besides, who else would do this without an apparent reason other than to cause a little bit of mischief? That doesn't answer why he confined her. Amusement. Lucifer guessed, noncommittal. You have to admit that it is pretty funny. Oh, it is, Hades chuckled along with Lucifer, much to Yusaka's dismay. I merely am keeping my mind open for other more sensible answers. I'm thrilled to know you two jokers see the hilarity in misery. It's always funny when it happens to others. Hades sniggered. He's not wrong, Lady Yusaka. Of course he's not wrong. He's never wrong. He's always technically right. Lucifer was quick with his quip carried with his self-satisfied smile. Best form of being right. But amusing as it is, I can't see this spelling anything other than disaster. Your territory is without its guardian. If there's ever a chance to strike, then it would be now. Yet one question remains, why haven't they? That's what I feared the most, Yusaka muttered, genuine worry sewn in her words. Quote. Who will protect my people when I'm here? Lucifer lowered his eyelids as he felt Hades' nudging stares. He could even feel Yusaka staring at him with foxy puppy eyes, and she was inside a rock. I am disinclined to acquiesce to your request, he snappily said. That means no. Hades, who stood 2 heads taller than the devil, turned as he said to him, Savior, Conqueror, Hero, Villain. You are all these things, Lucifer, and yet you chose to be nothing. Stay on this same beaten path, and you will forever stand alone. I do stand alone. Always has. Always will, Lucifer said, unimpressed and unaffected. He had accepted the fact that he was the only soul to ever fall as an archangel, rise and die as an archdevil, and ascend into godhood as the new Alpha and Omega. Odd how these creatures didn't seem to like the idea. Spare me your sagely advice, Hades, he then said. If I ever find myself ever in need, I'll let you know. By that time, perhaps it'll be too late. Well, better late than never, shrugged the young man, appearing in his mid-20s. The prime age, for most Cretans that was affected with aging and getting weaker with time. And I bear no ill will towards your wiseness, but sagacious and well-meaning counsel won't get our fox friend out of her prison. I need action, Hades. I intend to take action. If you can't unbind her seals, then at the very least confirm that it is Loki who did it. Hades sighed, but he nonetheless replied. There's a slew of other magic, but yes. This amulet is indeed sealed mostly by Norse magic. Although is it Loki? As you've seen, Odin has him imprisoned since he let Fenrir out. A bit excessive of a punishment, might I add, Lucifer said. Let the poor wolf scamper. I don't see the necessity in keeping him caged like a zoo animal. Perhaps because it can and has killed heroes and gods in its rabid rage. As did Hela, but his sons killed her, some millennia ago. Ah, you were there, weren't you? Didn't you lay with her? You what? I thought her eyeliner was cute and ahead of her time. Bit edgy, rough on the outside, spiky armaments but not unheard from the Asgardians. A shame that she wanted to bring the rest of the realms under Asgard's rule, the devil sighed. She sealed her fate when she wanted my hell. Hades chuckled. Didn't think that through, did she? Evidently not. If I was her, I'd have settled for Asgard first, not pissing off and uniting all the bickering gods, including Shiva. You should have seen her face when he crushed her skull. It's like he was crushing a pumpkin. Oh, I did, Hades muttered. I saw. But why should we bother with her? She's dead, Lucifer said. Her wolf, on the other hand, still capable of killing gods. Then sedate him. His pelt can make for a fine mantle, Lucifer said, free of guilt. If they're aware of their incompetency, they shouldn't have tried to control what's beyond their control in the first place. There's a reason no one keeps dragons as pets, though the idea started to sound tempting to him, now that he mentioned it. Hades only shook his head. Not in disagreement, rather, as he was agreeing with Lucifer. Why speak to me? I hold no authority over Asgard's mandate. Lucifer idly hummed in response as Hades continued to tweak with the pendant. Little did the old Reaper know, Lucifer was picturing himself as the first dragon tamer. It did have quite a nice ring to it. But what kind of dragon? Any ordinary dragon was no accomplishment, he must set the bar as high as possible so that no other could ever hope to match his steps. The heavenly dragons were sealed, so they were out of the equation. The Dragon Kings. Vritra was sealed in one of those lousy sacred gears, clear evidence of his father's preferential treatments towards his favorite toys. Tannen was already in cahoots with the underworld. You long, green-skinned coward. He'd turn tail before Fenrir. Magarsormr. Name excessively mouthful and an ugly serpent in general. Not to mention he was Loki's son. Tiamat. Well, she wouldn't be the worst choice. Far from it, actually. He'd imagined scuttling her immense pride as he forced her to recognize his dominance would be no doubt mouth-wateringly satisfying. But was there really nothing else other than the Chaos Karma dragon? Ah, of course. Why not settle for the dragon god? He should seek out the Ouroboros dragon. For the infinite, Ophis was rather simple-minded, or so he'd heard. All he had to do was pinpoint what interested her most, other than kicking Great Red out of the dimensional gap, and promise her as such. Seeking others' temptations was a trivial thing. Nevertheless, Hades continued, handing over the necklace to his side of the counter. Though it might seem obvious that Loki is the culprit, he's imprisoned. And as you said earlier, Lady Yasaka, you didn't remember who did it, which led me to believe it couldn't be him. If it's Loki, he would have let you know it's him. He likes to gloat. Rura, Yasaka groaned. Who else then? Either a very talented magician or another god with enough power to restrain yours, and banish you to another plane of existence. What's it like in there, Yasaka? Asked Lucifer. As of this moment I am sitting by the porch of a cottage atop a small hill, talking to the stars like a lunatic, she said, not at all pleased. I don't feel hunger or the need to rest, but there are peach trees and cherry blossoms. It's very scenic, I'll admit, and there's even an outdoor hot spring as well. Lucifer exchanged a glance with Hades, before staring back at the pendant. Seems to me you're in a retreat instead of a jail cell. As beautiful as it is, I don't want to be here. Yasaka fumed. Lucifer could clearly picture all her 9 tails lashing about, and since the size of her tail was as tall as her in person, it was actually quite the spectacle when all 9 of them were angrily whipping the air. I can't be here, Yasaka then said in a hushed tone. What else can I do? Any more of this, then I might start to lose my fur. Christ almighty, anything but the fur, Lucifer said in abject mock horror. Come now, Hades. You've been prattling about, but I'm not hearing any solution here. There isn't yet a solution, Hades said. I can't break the spell even with my authority. Don't you see? Whoever did this is a being more powerful than me. Lucifer sighed as he made a face. And the list remains lengthy. I am the most powerful of all Olympians, Hades warned, his skeletal fingers pointing at him. The old Reaper's pride was noticeably hurt by his scathing dry humor. I alone is enough to bring cataclysm over Earth and restart the Dark Age. Lucifer was not amused. Why would I concern myself with the well-being of a few billion people? You need them. I don't. If you want my blessing as the former herald of the apocalypse, then be my guest. It's not about my capacity to bring doomsday, Lucifer. It's about the culprit having the same potency to do the same and perhaps more. You might not care, yet, but if they can contain a guardian spirit on a whim, you can imagine the scope of their power. Well, then the Earth dwellers should be grateful they haven't been wiped out yet. Lucifer picked up the necklace, wearing it around his neck, promptly tucking the flat pendant inside his collar. You worry too much, Hades. Anxiety is not healthy for your bones. Hades resisted his desire to roll his eyes as he kept track of the devil. You're leaving. Where to? You're out of answers, so I'm heading to Odin, Lucifer casually said as he fixed the lapels of his suit. I'll tell him you said hi. Break. Leave it to the devil to jump between realms to show up unannounced and mutter the name of one of Asgard's dangerous criminals in front of the Allfather, in his personal office, in front of his personal Valkyrie retinue, while he was in the middle of his, mind-numbing King of Asgard duties. This particular case, Odin was administering justice to his people, through a mountain of paperwork. Odin, Lucifer nodded as a casual greeting. I see you are still alive and well. Unfortunately. Understandably, in spite of the spite shown by his housecarls and Valkyries, the magnificently salt and pepper bearded old god was more than happy to have a distraction. Lucifer. Odin stood up from his glorious table with inglorious papers and documents. So good to see you. I expect you to bring me a piece of freedom so that I can rid myself of these chains called duties and responsibilities and new tax rate reforms. Get these papers off my desk. I have a guest. My kind of freedom is self-earned, I'm afraid, Lucifer said as he watched Odin's secretary begrudgingly set aside the paperworks for him, cleaning the table as she carried the stack of documents elsewhere. One of its requirements is for you to rid yourself of your kingdom. Which I can gladly help, without needing to involve Cert either. Lucifer smiled harmlessly as every sort of weapon, though mostly spears and glaives made of Asgardian mithril, were pointed at him. No one threatens his grace in the presence of his Valkyries and Huskarls, said one of the Valkyrie, mithril glaive aimed to lob his head. You consider a joke a threat. The devil kept his imperious demeanor as that was what ticked off these kinds of glorified sentries the most. If I want to threaten anyone, I can assure you at least 2 people would have been set on fire as a warning. Like this. Quote. Arg. Ah. No. One of the Valkyries screamed in agony as black and crimson hellfire combust from the floor beneath her, clutching her face as she felt her flesh and muscles melted off like a candle, her knees dropping to the floor, while her fellow co-workers could only stand and watch in confusion. Ire. What did you do to her, you fiend? Then all her friends slumped to the floor, screaming their lungs as the same malevolent flames consumed their flesh. She watched their metallic fingers reach out for her, crying for her help as they crawled, flesh and muscles dripping off their bones. All right, Lucifer, cut it out with your mind tricks, Odin said as he thumped his golden spear against the ground, ending the illusion he cast at the unfortunate Valkyrie, who was rooted to the spot, completely frozen, her eyes staring off into the distance as tears welled. She could use a vacation, Lucifer pointed out as she gasped. Preferably a therapist as well. Send her home, Odin grumbled, ushering a few of his guards who began escorting the mindbroken Valkyrie outside his office. She'll be fine after a rest, will she, Lucifer? She will, Lucifer plaintively raised his hands in a half-hearted surrender. My apology. I feel threatened by all these pointy sticks, you see, wielded by men and women in their fine armor and their pretty white cloak. We all know you don't, the Allfather scoffed. And you lot, stop humoring him you numbnuts. He's done this every time he's been here, how many times do you people have to bite the bait? Odin grouched, ordering his guards to stand down with a wave of his hand. His heavily armored guards with the big bendy-horned helmet and shiny breastplates and of course, pretty white cloaks. Lucifer never understood Northerners' fascination with horny helmets. He probably wanted to let it remain a mystery anyway. A bit more flair to compensate for their stuck-uppiness, perhaps. We can never be certain, Your Highness. After all, a devil can never be trusted, said one of the Valkyries. The most respected one too, for that matter, and being Odin's daughter might have helped with her reputation. Dressed in a modest set of crystalline blue armor with enchanting long light blue hair which galaxies seemingly spangled across, Brynhildr had retained her title as Asgard's most beautiful and strongest Valkyrie, and one who had suffered a heartbreak and yet to recover. You could tell she was special because she wasn't wearing any stag-like helmet to hide her flawless face. And Lucifer couldn't help himself from strutting towards her in his relaxed, confident stride, his crimson pear never leaving her doe-like lavender eyes. Good afternoon, Bryn, he said to her, still with his assured borderline arrogant smile. Afternoon. Albeit I can yet to declare if it'll be a good one. Well, I suppose that depends on my mood, he added surreptitiously. Yet to evict that dead man out of your heart. She replied with a daggering glare and a downward slash of her spear, splitting the air. He stood with her large mithril blade shaped in a reminiscent of the shape of a heart. The hit wouldn't kill him or injure him, but it would at least still sting a little. And Lucifer was no masochist. He preferred to be the one delivering the judgment, if anything. I'll take that as a no. Lucifer, of course, had blinked himself to safety, earning more glares as he purposely used Loki's sparks whenever he blinked for the sake of riling as many people as he could. Call him a child, but he wasn't the most childish here. Losing their minds because he added tiny fireworks. Really now, and these people prided themselves for being Odin's most elite guards. His name is Sigurd, and I will not allow the likes of you to taint his memories, Brynhildr warned, her spear raised and pointed. Now, you devil, don't start egging my daughter either, Odin said, admittedly relaxed and nonchalant as he knew Lucifer wasn't a warmongering fool as he was just a giant tease. He'd never say this aloud in front of his guards, but Odin would have preferred livelier kingsguards that could tell a joke and laugh at it. Lucifer slightly bowed this time, having had his fun, as Odin then sighed, much as I think it's time for her to move on. Father. How could you? In the face of her daughter's look of betrayal and emotional shock, Odin only shrugged like an unconcerned father. It's been decades, my sweet. Now I understand each individual grieves differently, but you're clinging on to him without the intention of letting go. Live a little, Bryn, is all I'm saying. To you and to all of you here. Lucifer tilted his head and raised an eyebrow as Odin began his tirade. You can protect the realm, but none of you can maintain a relationship to last longer than a month. What's the matter with you people and romance? You're making it difficult on yourself. Can't find a way to balance your love life with your work. You work 4 days a week and are secured financially for Yggdrasil's sake. Odin dejectedly shook his head while his guards, both male and female, all looked down in mute shame. Can you believe these people? They don't even have to worry about Ragnarok anymore and they still blush like maidens whenever I mention anything remotely vulgar. You can't enforce love to bloom, old relic, was all Lucifer said with an air of carefreeness. Maybe they just haven't found that one special person. Or they have, but they're being nitpicky about it, and thus losing their chance to someone else more proactive and less wishy-washy. Romanticizer of tragedy, these lots, Odin spat. No thanks to you, Brynhild. Blasted Sigurd, letting you meet him was a grave mistake on my part, and now I have no grandkids to run all over my halls or clamber on top of my head. Whine. Odin's thunderous voice reverberated throughout the chamber, reminding everyone that this here was a god that had conquered 9 realms, and decided to be its protector on a whim when he stopped conquering. Well, it wasn't exactly on a whim, but Lucifer wouldn't want to ruin the illusion that Odin was a benevolent man. None of Asgard would believe him anyway. Adopt kids, the devil instead said as he watched a young cupbearer skittered forward, pouring wine on Odin's golden chalice before scampering away to his spot in the background. Lucifer didn't even notice he was ever there. There's plenty for sale in the orphanage. Sales, orphaned children are not cattle you can buy. They are in a certain kind of market, Lucifer shrugged lightheartedly. Not at all difficult to find on Earth. The Vatican practiced it too, until a few years ago. They still would if they were never found out. If you're here to defile my appetite with your revolting facts, then I'll have to give you the boot. Only truth can ever be so ugly, is it? Lucifer smiled. He had gained satisfaction in seeing some of the proud guards looking disturbed, disgusted by humans and their child trafficking nonsense. But very well. He swiftly moved along, taking out his necklace and took it off him. I'll make this quick. You have any idea who did this? Odin raised an ashen eyebrow. Fancy looking pendant. I never took you one as a jewelry type of person. You'd find me sooner dead than to decorate my arms with bangles that shine and block my visage. Thank you very much. Lucifer tossed him the necklace, and Odin caught it mid-air. If he didn't, it would have landed right to his patched eye. Be more mindful. I expect your utmost care when I agree to be taken on your trip. Lucifer, the stone spoke, much to the Allfather's surprise. Lucifer. I'm all the way over here, Yusaka. Lady Yusaka. Odin muttered, lifting the pendant closer to his one good eye. How did you get yourself stuck in there? Yusaka sighed exasperatedly. Why do people think I did this intentionally? I'm not. To whom am I speaking to? This is Odin you're speaking to. The Allfather. Yusaka exclaimed. About time. I demand for your son Loki to unseal me from this jewel. I expect compensation as well for the humiliations I must endure. Loki. But he's in prison, Odin muttered as he glanced at his guards. Quote. Isn't he? Did he escape again? That slimy weasel. We've tripled our sentries and securities, Your Highness, the secretary next to him said. He's still imprisoned. You sure that wasn't one of his mirages? Doubly sure. Lady Brynhildr was the one who checked on him this morning. Odin shifted towards his daughter. That true? Bryn. It's true. I met him today. I threw a pebble on his chest as per your request. Lucifer made a face on hearing that tidbit of information. He had to give it up to Loki for making these elite soldiers toss pebbles like children just to be sure they weren't seeing his astral projection, annoying as it would get. If someone started throwing rocks at him and made it a habit, Lucifer might have to consider jump-starting the apocalypse by putting a very loud alarm clock next to the sleeping Trihexa. Or build several mosques around the beast. That should work. Well, as you can hear, it couldn't have been Loki. I'm assuming you can hear them, Lady Yasaka. It's rather difficult to measure the range of hearing of one residing in a rock. It's a gemstone, Yasaka groused. And I'm trapped, not residing. Can you do anything about it? Lucifer and Hades both confirmed the seals were one of your kin, Lord Odin. And they're not mistaken, Odin affirmed as he broke away a layer of seal that was indeed, of Norse magic. Except that it isn't the only seal. Lucifer muttered as he caught the throne necklace. If any brainless ruffians ever throw me again, Yasaka began in a low, threatening voice. The moment I am set free, I shall make it my priority to haunt their dreams and have them sealed inside a stone. Lucifer promptly ignored her threat, wearing the necklace again. You should have asked for a favor first before doing that, Odin. You might regret it. Ha! Odin laughed chestily. Favors between friends. You wound me, Lucifer. Friends. Gods no. But business is business. You're casting yourself down a lonely road if you only see people as subjects or business partners, boy. Or enemies, Lucifer added lightheartedly, evidently unaffected. But fine, I thank you for your help. Now, if you can tell me where or who I need to see who can remove the rest of these seals, that would also be greatly appreciated. Odin then grinned. Now that will cost you a favor. Lucifer also grinned, though it was more of a lopsided, tight-lipped smile. Go ahead and name it. I'll at least consider it. The Allfather gave a nod. Leave us. All of you. Except you, Brynhildr. You stay. This is important. The Valkyries and Huskarls nodded as they promptly left the area, marching out in an orderly fashion. His young secretary and that little kid earlier followed them quietly in the back, leaving the golden wine container next to the Allfather. Lucifer conjured himself a seat. The same one he made back in Erebus, and made himself comfortable on the violently cracking dark cloud. On to business. It's more of a personal request rather than business, Odin said. Stand closer here next to me, you stubborn daughter of mine. You're not my guard but my daughter right now. Quote. What is it then, father? Why do you look so glum all the sudden? Lucifer said, unsure how to deal with Odin's change of mood. Easy now, we'll get there soon enough, Odin replied. First, can you find Thor for me? Very well, Lucifer nodded as a rift tore through the space next to him, revealing a plane he had created by himself not moments after he attained godhood. A realm of eternal hellfire and constant wailing of tormented souls, souls of the damned who could no longer go to hell as it was no longer a place fit for these vile criminals. He might have forsaken his title as the king of hell, but he did enjoy his job as his dad's torturer. It was his brand new hell, aging hardly 1,000 years old. But it was booming. Humans, devils, vampires, any sort of departed souls that didn't belong in any of the afterlife because they were too heinous to deserve redemption was thrown here. It also functioned as a place where he kept his personal army of demons, demons that knew only to serve him, and had no desire to serve the new devils. So, really, all demons in hell. The old hell. He'd have taken Trihexa along too, but as Lucifer wasn't yet certain if he could tame the beast, as was mentioned during his discussion with Hades, he refrained from making a mistake. Cerberus, he called, and 3 demons with white hair and stylish sets of formal attire popped by the window. You called for us, master. One of them replied darkly, a spatter of fresh blood dripped freshly off the corner of her lips. Always finding ways to make themselves busy, this hellhound of his. Oh. Are you in Asgard? Is it time to add the first realm under your reign? Another muttered, perfectly identical in appearance with her siblings. They weren't called the triple demon without a reason. Excellent choice, master, the last of the trio added, baring her fangs as her deep red eyes flashed. The Valkyries of Asgard shall make a suitable test for your new army. Quit it with your nonsense, Lucifer said, unamused, not minding the genuine look of concern he was receiving from Brynhildr. Find Thor. Bring him to me. The triplets glanced at each other, before the Alpha looked at him. Alive. Alive. Alive, the leader nodded, flattening her wolf ears. Limbs. Complete and not ripped off. Don't start any problems, don't corrupt any mortals, or I will banish you personally. Okay. We fetch. The three cheered, as the hellhounds rushed into another portal somewhere in the new hell, and the rift shut soon after. Have you decided the name yet? Odin then asked with the same intensity of someone asking for the weather. Lucifer shook his head. Not yet. Never liked naming things. Never since Eden, by all that is holy and unholy, there were far too many animals back then. His father was anything but easily content. Adding Heim on the back makes it twice as intimidating. Just a tip. Helheim sounds nice, don't you think? That's just your own hell minus an L, replied the devil. Come now, you old relic. Don't waste my time. What do you want? I'd rather not repeat the words I'm bound to say, Lucifer. We wait for my son. What about the other one? I'll see him after this. It was then the ceiling broke as the blonde god of thunder stomped down with a perfect heroic landing and pose that amplified his bulging arms muscles. Him and his giant maul, Stormbringer. The Cerberus did their job. He could hear their prideful howl as they asked him for their treats, 3 souls. One for each. He granted them such, and the triple demon proceeded to devour 3 particularly lucky souls, for their torment was about to end in the stomach of Cerberus. Well then, Odin, I present you your son, quipped the archdevil while Odin rubbed his temples over his son's dramatic entrance. How many times do I have to say, doors exist for a reason? Use it. Why should I bother with doors when Asgard is in danger? Because it costs money, you nitwit. Odin seethed, staring up at his new skylight window. And whoever said Asgard is in danger? There were 3 demons, they have ears akin to Fenrir's, except white. And they have tails too. They said that the devil is in Asgard, and that he has an army. Lucifer made a face of approval. He did have an army. Just not one he brought with him everywhere. Clever dogs. When I heard that, I had Heimdall bring me through the Bifrost and, he paused as he finally turned around to see Lucifer, sitting on his floating chair. Oh, hello Lucifer. I didn't notice you were here. Sparkles. Lucifer tipped his chin. I see you finally got a haircut. I always told you a crop hairstyle looks better than your conditioner hair. My thanks. Jane suggested it to me, before we broke up. Ahem. It was a mutual dumping, I assure you, Thor replied with a manly nod with his manly beard. Anyway, Father he snapped back to Lucifer, as his mind finally put 2 and 2 together, and realized that what the demons said to him, while the truth, had misled him into thinking Asgard was under attack. Quote. Oh, my foot, Odin grumbled. Do you want to be the god of the brooms and sweep this place? Someone will have to take care of the mess you made if you never stop to think for a moment. My apology. I thought Asgard was in grave danger, so I came here as fast as I could. Destroying the roof in the process. Quote. I thought that would instill quite the scare in the hearts of my enemies. Odin rolled his eye. Do that after confirming they exist in the first place. Your brashness aside, said another voice, bringing a much-needed femininity to the masculine riddled air. It's good to know Asgard remains your main concern, brother. Brynny, Thor nodded at his sister. Keeping our father safe. From the dust, I suppose. Brynhildr said as she spun her spear, controlling the dust from the debris outside. Why is he here? Thor then asked. I was thinking of adopting him, Odin replied, much to the god of thunder's shock. But Thor calmed himself down, laughing nervously as he did. Surely you jest. Would I? He visits me more often than you do and he has a better sense of direction than you do. Thor's smile faded as the realization sank. Quote. No, not another one. Surely not another. Did you just put me in the same place as Loki? They're a cut of the same cloth, Thor stated, vehemently. Loki turned me into a frog while he turned himself into a snake. He'll bring nothing but more terror to these lands, father. Lucifer reclined on his seat. I thought it was pretty funny. Oh, it was hilarious, Odin cackled. How nice. Lucifer knew he had to interfere before he caught himself in Odin's family sitcom. Now that your son's here, I'd extend my stay if I'd like, but I don't. So please, can we move on? Odin nodded, and he gestured to his son. Sit down, son. Thor took a seat by debris because it had crushed the sofa meant for visitors. My children. And Lucifer. I fear that a time of conflict will once again present itself in the foothold of not only Asgard, but the rest of the realms. Lucifer pressed his lips and crossed his hands. Fair enough, he supposed. He'd stay and listen out of interest. But if Odin was requesting him to come in the defense of Asgard, or any realms in particular, then the one-eyed king should already know his answer would be a flat no. Again. Thor said, exasperated. Who is it now? Hela. Has she come back to life? No. It won't be Hela or Surt. If it was only them, then Asgard is the only realm in danger. But it is the beast of apocalypse itself that is about to wake. Trihexa. Lucifer raised an eyebrow. Nonsense. Dad sealed it. And where is your father now? Dead, but I don't see the relevance. A watch is still a watch even after its maker is deceased. Because he is the only one who can renew the seal, Odin stated, and seeing that it took him a considerable amount of power that rendered him exhausted for his final battle, I can't imagine you suddenly growing a conscience nor the intention to reinforce said seal with the knowledge of having to forsake a portion of your strength. As all eyes fell on him, Lucifer's expression was indifferent at most. Not wrong. To think someone so selfish possesses the power of a protogenoi, spat Brynhildr with disgust. The devil remained unconcerned. Reality is often disappointing, so he said. And he was never meant to seal the beast in the first place. If the beast stirred, then that meant the apocalypse was in order and had passed its deadline. Don't you understand? Thor rose to him. Everything you love will die, Lucifer. To love means to accept the reality that nothing lasts forever. Not excluding the things you love, O almighty Thor. His possessions were all in the new hell anyway, a realm residing in an entirely new universe of his own, where his rules and laws reigned supreme. It had room if he so wished to toss a few individuals he liked in particular. What a lonely life you must have lived. Surprisingly never as lonely as your sister. I wonder why. Perhaps because I don't run from reality. Brynhildr clicked her tongue. Enough, Odin demanded. It impresses me that you've fought side by side and yet still you bicker like children. Bickering can be healthy, old man, Lucifer said, still with his undisturbed smile. It's how we vent. Much better than a shouting match that ends in the banishment of one of your sons, at least. That hurt. I never claimed I was a perfect father. Maybe not, but you're miles better than mine anyway, the devil said with a carefree chuckle. Don't be so hard on your old bones, and let's get back to Trihexa. What makes you believe it's coming? There's a slew of other gods that can seal it. None is as powerful as your father was, Odin continued. And we are getting terribly old, Lucifer, he added with an ironic laugh. You're still the youngest of God. Protogenoi or not. You've experienced nothing of the gradual depreciation of your powers, especially felt with the decay of your followers. Hence why I aimed for Dad, yes, but what of it? There's Ophis and Great Red still. Someone can coerce them to fight for the good of existence, I suppose. You can convince a snake to walk. Why don't you? Lucifer shot a disappointed glance at Thor. Because I was meant to bring the apocalypse, Captain Asgard. It was part of my duty and I don't intend to besmirch my flawless execution of my duties, even if it does upset you that some people may die. That aside, while it is no longer my responsibility as who I am now, I'm not responsible for the fate of the entire universe. Ask other protogenoi. Go ahead and ask Chaos. They'll give you the same answer. They are they and you are you. Billions will die, and you choose not to act. Billions are still part of some. The underworld won't be safe from this either, Lucifer, Brynhildr pointed out. Still part of some. Thor clutched his hammer. Don't you want to be remembered as a hero for once? Why would I want to be remembered by a bunch of corpses? And heroes. I have been a hero. Quite plenty of times, actually. People just hate to admit it because I am who I am. The Valkyrie glared along with her brother. Quote. A heartless scum. And yet somehow I know how to love better. Much better than one with a broken heart. One of his greatest pride was remaining calm and collected while others got madder and madder. It was like watching them dig deeper into their grave while he sat there on the surface with his folding chair, cheering them on with a glass of lemonade and a pair of Ray-Bans. That's enough, children, Odin had to say, reeling their leashes. What I ask of you is to be prepared when the time comes. You will fight alongside the other pantheons, they too will have sensed it. Asgard will never fall as long as you stand. Even if destroyed, we may seek a new home. I understand, father. I understand. Brynhildr nodded firmly, whereas Lucifer was eyeing Odin with a newfound skepticality. I love you, and that's all. You may leave now. I wish to speak with the devil alone. But father. Alone. Stiffening at Odin's commanding voice, his two least rowdy children excused themselves out of the office, strutting around the debris as they exited the room. Lucifer's eyes never left Odin's unpatched one. His smoldering gaze would have unnerved most men, but Odin was no mere man. I know you're dying, you old coot. Lucifer broke the silence, unamused. You can play pretend and fool everyone else and even your own blood, but not me. Of course not. Whoever can fool the prince of lies and forgery. Save your jokes. Enough with the whole, I don't want to admit I'm dying, part. Melodramatic as it is, it's unnecessary. Not even gods may decide what is necessary and what is not, Odin said, looking into the distant star, Asgard's sun, tucked above the brilliant skies, beaming over the rolling hills and misty mountains. Is it me or you're actually concerned about me for once, Lucifer? Or is it a concern about yourself? That the old guards are gradually shifting to become history. While here you shall remain, embarked on a journey with no clear end in sight. Lucifer frowned. What was it with gods and parting monologue whenever it was nearing their time? Spare me your flowery words, he told Odin. How long do you have? Odin sighed. I've heard Frigg calling for me. In my dreams. When I'm awake, he stared at a moving art on the wall, a moving picture of Frigg, his late wife, riding next to him unto the pearly gates of Valhalla. To Lucifer, it was just a wall. I might have extended it a little, the Allfather exhaled, his eyes still gazing to the distance. Your kids can take care of themselves. I know, Odin said. Doesn't mean I stop worrying for them. As much as you hate appearing weak in front of your children, they deserve to know their Allfather won't be the Allfather for long. How surprisingly heartfelt from you, Lucifer. You nearly made me believe you cared for my kids. I don't, Lucifer said without a shred of embarrassment. But I do have an inkling of what makes a good father and the cause of horrible sons, and I'd rather not find myself explaining to Thor I have nothing to do with his father's death. You need to tell them. It'll lessen the blow. It'll give them time to cope, and it'll cross me out as a suspect. Odin let loose of a sigh, staring at the fine devil before him. Such a waste, what Yahweh did to him. Banishing him from heaven and forcing him to be an executor for vile souls unworthy of heaven. He could have become so much more. Much more. Loki was one of Odin's greatest regrets, and he couldn't help but think to himself if Loki was his Lucifer, and if he had disappointed him as much as Yahweh had disappointed Lucifer. But even still, Lucifer was no Loki. Others claimed he was as twisted if not more, but Odin understood that the devil had simply done things out of necessities. There was a necessity for evil, no matter where, no matter what realms. There would always be a necessity for the scapegoat. Odin thought it was a terrible mistake Yahweh had made for picking Hellel, but it seemed that Lucifer understood it better than even the Allfather. No one could have become a better devil than him. It had to be him. Anyone else would have gotten it wrong. Now then, Lucifer shoved one hand into his suit's front pocket. Your favor. I hope you know a favor won't make me attend your funeral. Bah, you won't even if I begged. Traditions are all too boring for you young'uns nowadays. Odin laughed, unafraid even in the face of death. The devil sighed. What do you want from me then? They're gone, your kids. No one's listening but me, if you don't want any of them eavesdropping. Odin steadied his gaze. I want you to take my daughter with you. Lucifer winced. Now before you jerk away and refuse, let me explain, Thor has found his reason to live and to protect Earth. Loki will try to retake Asgard, but he'll protect it from destruction. But Brynhildr, she's still so young. So brittle. Her heart has yet mended even after all this time. Should the apocalypse happen, and should she survive, if too many have fallen, I'm afraid she won't have the strength to carry on. Lucifer was about to explain to Odin why this was a bad idea until he continued. Tinker with her memory. Make her forget, but take her with you. Let one of my blood survive, Lucifer. Bring her to a new universe. That's all I ask of you. The devil stared at him, before he sighed softly as his expression softened. Not too soft, but at least he wasn't staring at Odin as though he had kicked his dog. You have my word. Alive, Lucifer. Lucifer smirked. Alive. Excellent. Odin smiled as on top of his palm formed a small piece of paper, flickering with golden embers. Now, regarding your fox friends seals, here are the few names I can give you, but you want to start with Zeus. Lucifer took the piece of paper, and there went his smirk. Replaced with a neutral scowl. Great, one bearded man to another. I won't be surprised if I have to dig up Dad's body at the end. He doesn't have a body. Isn't he made of the first light? Purely a metaphor, Lucifer muttered, a bit disappointed Odin failed to catch it, but then again, subtlety was never one of Asgardian's strongest suits. Case in point, Loki. He was Jotun. And he was the first light. Odin blandly nodded. What about your empire, Don't you at least want to save it? Lucifer's reply was equally as bland. Nah. If not from Trihexa, then from those Chaos Loons. Who? The Chaos Brigade. Odin scratched his magnificent salt and pepper beard. Haven't caught wind of them. Oh. Them. Of course I have, I just couldn't find it in me to care, Lucifer stated with frank honesty. If the underworld falls by a band of nitwits, then perhaps they don't deserve to remain standing to begin with. The Allfather's laughter was boisterous. Loud and slightly obnoxious, but it was genuine. Ha! Never have I met a king without a kingdom so unconcerned of his last. They had decades of peace. It'll be a good test for them, the crownless king said. Shave away a few of the population, more rooms for the young to grow. Defensive wars have a greater effect towards national unity, I've found. Perhaps the politicians will finally agree on something and stop playing their stupid rating game. You don't approve of the rating game. It's a stupid method of solving a problem. The strongest will always win, not necessarily the one who is right. It's a terrible choice. A disappointing choice. They think they're rising yet they fail to realize they have been in decline ever since the Great War. Ever since you left, you mean? Of course, Lucifer chuckled. I was their last true king. Without me, they'd stayed a rabble. At that, Odin could only shake his head in disbelief and morbid admiration. Your cruel, condescending way of seeing things makes no sense. Well, it would if you were as wise as they said, Lucifer said smoothly as he got up from his seat. The clouds fizzled away the moment his dress shoes met the marble floor. What was it with gods and marbles? If that's all, then I'll be taking my leave. I got a fox in a rock and another that is keeping my bedside warm. Amulet. Wait, Odin said. There's another. What? Now. Take Rosweiss with you. That name rang no bell whatsoever, as made evident by the devil's expression. She's my secretary, Odin added. Lucifer lowered his black brows, reconsidering if he should grant the god his favors. And why would I? She's smart and has a natural talent with magics. Seals, protection, any kind that Norse specializes in, I believe she can make it better and more efficient. Good for her. Odin raised a finger. I'm not finished. She's a very diligent soul. A hard worker. The special kind. But she's spent all her youth studying, you see, and, well, she's Gondel's granddaughter, but she struggles to, let's say, fit in with her fellow Valkyries, due to her serious nature. When I depart, she has nowhere to go but her home. A geek, the devil said with disinterest, making a, "Are you for real?" kind of exasperated face. You're asking me to take a geek with me so she can nerd out. Come on, she's not that nerdy. I can sniff out lies, Odin Borson. Fine, Odin admitted with a huff. She is that nerdy. But she's still a good kid, Lucy. She even created her own magic crest since her family couldn't pass down theirs. I've wanted to give her a greater task than nagging about some bills needing my concern, but at this rate, the greatest task I've given her would be just that. Why not have her fairy souls like what your Valkyries are supposed to do? There's no longer a need for a great deal of heroes. No villains competent enough. I can fix that. Now don't you get ominous on me, Lucifer, Odin said threateningly as he clasped his spear, Gingnur, which sparked with thunder. I might be old and dying, but I can still smite you in my realm. Tempting as it was, the devil had no interest in a one-sided match against a god with 1 foot inside his death's door. I'll be nice, was what Lucifer said. And I still have yet to hear a good reason other than I should take her out of pity. It won't be out of pity. She can help you in Lady Yasaka's predicament. She's an expert in magical stuff. Even if she is, I'm plenty of an expert myself. Taking her along will only diminish her confidence in the only thing she's good at, Odin. I don't intend to act incompetent just so I can please a girl. You won't have to. She's an eager learner. She can learn from you. I don't need an apprentice. An assistant. I can do my job to perfection without help. And I doubt Valkyries can stomach torturing souls as a living. That's a demon's job, not a Valkyrie. My point exactly, and a Valkyrie's job is to guide a hero's soul, not tag along with the devil. All she will do is slow me down. Do you want me to tell her that? Lucifer. Please. I owed Gondel at least this much. Her granddaughter is oscatrized. The other Valkyrie will only tease her and belittle her if she stays here. Sounds to me you need a better flock of Valkyries. I can fix that. Just take her along, you goddamn prideful devil, Odin grumbled, successfully losing his patience. If not willingly, then as my last favor from you. Let her study the amulet occasionally and take her to places where she can expand her knowledge on your leisure. That's all I ask. Fine, fine, Lucifer sighed, wearier than the last. You have my resentful cooperation. But only because you're about to die and this will be your final request from me. Good. I'll tell her later and you can pick her up tomorrow. Didn't have to be so hard now, did it? Odin smiled in satisfaction as he clasped his wrinkly hands. Lucifer might be the amalgamation of pride, which was why getting a favor from him always brought him with a certain kind of smug joy. So what have you tried with that thing? Have you tried cracking it open? I did, actually, confirmed Lucifer, glancing down at his chest, seeing only his perfectly ironed shirt and tie. Yasaka stopped me. I was probably cracking everything in it as well rather than just the seals. He was, Yasaka chided, her voice a bit muffled by his shirt but nonetheless audible. The sky split and there was an earthquake. You could have killed me if I didn't stop you, Lucifer. Well, you did and I didn't, and you're still alive to chastise me about it. I'd be more than delighted if you wished to smother me to death with your tails. In your dreams. That word sparked an idea to life in Odin's head. Ah, have you tried sleeping while having it put on? I don't need sleep. That's not my question. Have you? Odin insisted. No. Why should I? You should try, the Allfather suggested, reclining on his expensively comfy chair. There were times where gods visited a mortal through their dream by possessing a piece of jewelry. Lucifer thought about it, and decided it was dumb. Why the roundabout way? We liked to be mysterious back then, Odin said, defensively. We weren't always the wisest, alright. And back then, humans were more superstitious. Their reactions were always wildly panicking out of control whenever they saw a god in the flesh. Alright, I remember that time. A nostalgic smile was about to rise, but Lucifer killed it by remembering Michael's face. Simpler times. Stranger times. Give it a try. At worst you'll waste an insignificant portion of your extensive life. Barely a grain in your sands of time. Assuming he still had an hourglass of time. If he had, then it would be quite a gigantic hourglass. Sure. I'll sleep tonight, he supposed there wasn't any hurt in it. Is there anything else or can I finally leave? There is, another. One last request. Lucifer's sigh was getting wearier by the moment. Was I a good father, Lucifer? The devil's crimson eyes went straight to Odin's last eye. That's something you ask your kids, not me. Humor me, Odin pleaded. Was I? At that, Lucifer let out a brief sigh. Yes, Odin. Yes, you were a good father. Although I'm inclined against saying otherwise as that'd likely break your heart. Odin smiled. Then that is all. Lucifer paused. A part of him didn't want the conversation to end just yet. But a major part of him, his stubborn pride, prevented him from extending his stay more than necessary. I see. For a moment, the devil and the Allfather exchanged a stare without saying a word. One last look held with high regards to each other, as an unspoken goodbye and the acknowledgement of the fact that the next time they saw each other again, one would not be able to return their quips. There was no sadness. No joy of remembering the old times. Not tears, no look of longing. Only mutual respect towards one another, for having survived through the tumultuous ages. And for a blink of a moment, Lucifer wondered what could have been if Odin was his father. Would he have become the devil then? Farewell, Lucifer. Well, he shall never know. But the devil knew he would remember him. Rest well, old man. Odin nodded. You will be missed. I thank you on behalf of my people. Odin blinked. Oh right. You were here. I take my gratitude back. Lucifer chuckled as a whirling vortex then seized him up, swallowing him whole, departing him from the realm of Asgard. Within the very next instance, Lucifer found himself standing before a familiar bedroom, where a certain lonely kitsune had waited for his arrival, anxiously combing down her tails. His sight brought her immediate joy as Tamamo reverted herself into her true self, leaping out of the traditional Japanese bedroll to skip her way towards the archdevil, her two auburn tails wildly swishing side to side, never bothering their happiness. Welcome back, MMNH. She would have welcomed him properly with a proper hug if Lucifer didn't lift her off her feet and sealed her lips. Her soft, soft lips, that his tongue would soon parted to take in her warmth. Tamamo was fully flushed when he broke the kiss, fanning her face with her hand. Oh my, I thought I was the one who was terribly missing the other. Zip it, Fox, Lucifer harshly said as he, with one deft movement of his finger, tugged the hem of Tamamo's blue kimono and unraveled her body. Get to bed. He nudged his head to the futon. I'll love you like no other. Such treatment only increased the kitsune's excitement as both of her ears and tails stiffened. Mikan. Lady Yasaka, please close your ears. At least take me off before you do the deed. I thought you liked to watch. Except I can't see anything but the stars. Maybe Lucifer felt a bit sad and wanted to drown his sorrow by partaking in a particular activity that required at least another soul. Long-lasting friends were quite difficult to come by these days. He thought he had gotten used to it. Well, he was wrong for once. To be continued. Oh, the world might end. Who cares? I got a fox in a rock, Lucifer, probably, with similar energy of Jack Sparrow showing off his jar of dirt. Chapter title is Old Friends and New, because old friends represent Odin and his children while new is Rosweiss although she's just a nameless cameo. Chapter title also means I'm smart and I wanna make my titles meaningful. Cerberus made a cameo, and yes, I didn't make them all cute and clumsy as plenty of Helltaker fanarts made them. I like him a little bit on the twisted side of things, which made sense. They have to enjoy working in New Hell. Did Yasaka have no comment on Lucifer's decision of not acting? Well, of course she has, one that they will discuss in the next chapter, which means yes. Yes, Lucifer is going to enter his dreamland and meet the fox wife for the first time in the story, and personally enjoy her fluff. You all know Thor and Odin. I took Marvel's version padded with my own twist because, frankly, DX ruined Odin by turning him into a heartless perverted old geezer that paid Rosweiss a minimum wage and treated her like ass. Like come on. Rosweiss might not be the best girl but she deserved better than being the constant butt monkey. And her, I have no BF woe is me, got stale after the first one, tbh. Brynhildr, on the other hand, is straight from Fate Go, just like Tamamo. Go ahead and Google her if you wanna see how she looks because fucking hell, I am never gonna describe anyone's clothes or hair unless it's ever relevant. She is a character in DX'd, and I don't think there are fics with her as a focus anyway. And I think she and Lucifer would make an interesting love-hate pairing. Kind of the, go away, I hate you, but I hate that you're the one that knows how to comfort me, kind of thing. How do you find Lucifer's personality so far? I think he's unique even as a standalone OC. He's got his own set of rules that he follows and if other people don't like it, then so be it. He isn't a moody teenager like my first rendition of Lucifer like a guest reviewer has mentioned, which I 100% agree with, and still wonder to this day how the fuck it has 3,000 plus followers and still increasing to this day. He's way less flamboyant too and straight to the point. He's more like Supernatural's version of Lucifer, except less obviously evil and less, I want to kill God and mankind, and more, let's see how they manage to fuck up big time this time. Is he evil though? He's obviously not good, but he isn't, I'm a fuck shit up hoo-hey evil either. He just liked making other people think he's up to no good. You know, making them paranoid. Which is exactly what he wanted, because it makes him feel superior. Sort of like, lol, you thought I'd put an effort. For you. That's cute. It's like the old question of, if the devil is the one punishing the bad guys, wouldn't that make him the good guys? The answer would be an obvious no, because the devil enjoys it. A half yes if he hates it. Yes if he's punishing them because they deserve just so. This Lucifer. Somewhere between yes and half yes. He doesn't enjoy torture. He doesn't hate it that the thought of it revolts him, and he likes it when evil people get their just dessert. So Idic. You decide. Appearance-wise. Just think of Aizen from the anime Bleach. Tide Pods, the movie, and replace his brown hair with black, and cut away the dangly bits of his hair, which I think is kinda stupid and over the top. I am become bad guy, therefore new hair, thematic with Bleach egg. Will Lucifer ever reseal Trihexa? Nope. He hates people. He wants them gone but doesn't want to be the one to do it because they're not worth the effort in his eyes. Dude doesn't even care about his own people. If they die, they die. He'd cheer Thanos with a big pink glove hand if this was an Avengers comic. Will he help the good guys if Trihexa got free? Probably not, but he has no interest in being a hindrance either, so there's that. He's like a spectator of a game where he doesn't really care which one's winning since he's just there to watch and spend some of his time. If everybody dies, then oh well, suck to be them, but if everybody lives, then oh well, good for them, time for a nap. Obviously things may change if somebody or anything decided to push his berserk button, which is ruining his suit or messing up his hair. Not even God can save them then. Review. PLS. I need it. Give me my sustenance. Smashes plastic cup on floor because glass mugs are expensive. AL opening parenthesis AL. Previous 2 of 11 next.